Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Mukesh English. Dear friends, in this video I'm going to summarize a very interesting, very significant story, Black Cobras, which is written by the famous Kannada writer Banu Mushtaq. This story is written in Kannada language originally and later it was translated into English by Deepa Bashti. Banu Mushtaq, she's an international Booker Prize winner. She's famous for her poignant storytelling and social commentary on the struggles of the women in India. So she's very famous. She has always been the voice of women in India. And let's know this story here very briefly. Black Cobras by Banu Mushtaq. The story Black Cobras is set in a Muslim neighborhood with mosque, madrasas, and the residential streets. The story portrays the struggles of women in a patriarchal society where religious and social norms often favor men. This story, Black Cobras, was adapted into the one film in 2004 that's called Hasina, and later this film is featured in Mushtaq's 2005 International Booker Prize shortlisted collection called Heart Lamp. Then the main characters of the stories in this story are Ashraf, her children, her children, her neglected husband Yaqub, the Mutawali mosque caretaker, and the supportive women Amina and Zulekha Begum. The story begins with the Isha Namaz, the evening prayer, approaching, and the children like Tarannum and Hamid, they bring news to their family about some judgment happening in the mosque. This builds a sense of anticipation and highlights the role of mosque as a center of authority in the community. Now, the characters in this particular story, Ashraf. Ashraf is a struggling mother who has four children and including the sick infant, very, very much young baby, Munni, and Aashraf. She's hardworking, loving, and determined to secure her children's survival despite the extreme adversity. Yaqub. Yaqub is Ashraf's husband, who is very selfish, irresponsible, obsessed with having a son who needs son. He abandons Ashraf and he marries another woman, Munni. Munni is Ashraf's youngest daughter, severely ill, who is suffering, and she's in need of urgent medical care. Hasina and Habiba. Hasina and Habiba is Ashraf's elder daughters and under her care. Mutawali Sahib, the mosque caretaker who takes care of mosque, a very authoritative person, and who has been shown here as very morally corrupt and indifferent to women's need in this society. I am sorry, in this particular story. Amina. Amina is Yaqub's first wife, very outspoken. She is aware of social injustices and critical of male dominance. Zulekha Begum, educated and very knowledgeable, she guides Ashraf about women's rights in Islam. So these are the characters we find here. Yaqub, who is husband, whose wife Ashraf, and Ashraf's first wife is Amina, and he requires son, right? I mean to say, who needs son, right? And Ashraf has already has four children, and her two daughters' name has been mentioned here, Hasina and Habiba. A very youngest kid is here, Munni, and the mosque caretaker is here, Mutabli Sahib. There's an educated lady is here, Zulekha Begum, right? So let's begin the story here with Ashraf's struggles. Ashraf's life is full of hardships. How? Her husband Yaqub abandons her after the third daughter, He refuses to support Ashraf family financially. He doesn't help her financially. She struggles to provide food, shelter, and care for her children, and often she remains hungry. Munni, the very youngest child, she's very seriously ill with diarrhea and fever that makes the situation more critical. She depends to desperate the measures. She resorts to desperate measures. She has only few measures. She has only few dependency like reusing the tea powder, eating pumpkin leaves, begging for helps from neighbors and the mosque authorities. These are the only one ways. These are the ways she has here from where she could retrieve. She could get some help here. So this is how this lady Ashraf, who's struggling, who is suffering enough in her life. Now, institutional neglect. Ashraf approaches the Mutawali Sahib repeatedly. She keeps on going to mosque to seek the help of this caretaker of the mosque called Mutawali Sahib, and she always asks some financial help to save Munni's life. Munni, the youngest daughter who is suffering from fever and diarrhea. However, the Mutawali dismisses her, and he always cites Allah's will and interpreting. He gives the hawala of like religious law to excuse his inaction. He says that it's not in my hand, I'm helpless, right? He prioritizes his personal convenience and social standing over justice. Even the Sharia law, which gives women rights to maintenance and care, is ignored. So, even the Sharia law says that women's rights are important here, where some sort of care has to be given, some sort of maintenance has, I mean to say, some sort of harjana or some sort of, we can say, a kind of a care should be given to women, and this care is ignored, this care is misused here. So, this highlights the religious hypocrisy and how patriarchal authority often protects men and neglect women's basic rights. Now, there's a guidance from Zulekha Begum, the educated lady. So, Ashraf, who has been disappointed, who has tried to seek the help from Mosque Mutawali Sahib, but she could not. So she meets Begum, who is an educated lady, educated woman. She explains, she says Islam gives women certain rights, including financial support from husband, access to education, equality in treatment if a man marries one more lady or more than once, right? And she also says that women must demand justice rather than waiting passively. Ashraf, she's inspired, but she's also scared. She's not sure. She doesn't know how to act because her focus is Munni's urgent health needs. Now she requires some money, some assistance where she can take her youngest daughter to the doctor. So that shows, it emphasizes the female solidarity and empowerment through knowledge, right? That knowledge, Zulekha Begum, one educated lady, she's giving to the other lady called Ashraf. Now, husband's neglect. Yaqub's behavior is again adding some more problems to Ashraf's struggles. Yaqub, who has married to another woman to get a son, and he starts ignoring his responsibilities towards Ashraf and their four plus one children. When he briefly returns, he humiliates Ashraf. He gives her a small amount of money and again he leaves. His action shows the male privilege and the societal preference for the male heirs. Male heir, male uttaradhikari, simple language. So here, Munni's health, despite Ashraf's tireless efforts, Munni's conditions worsens. It's getting worse day by day due to the lack of money, lack of medicine, and lack of proper care. Ashraf tries every method to keep her alive. including approaching Mutawali, begging her husband Yaqub for support. Munni eventually dies. That symbolizes the tragic consequences of societal neglect and patriarchal indifference. Ashraf experiences immense grief but also sense of release because her child is free for suffering. Now her child will not suffer. So somehow she feels sad, disappointed, grief. Sometimes she feels that thank God, better, because she was struggling. This moment is the emotional climax, highlighting the devastating effects of gender inequality and systematic injustice. Gender inequality and systematic injustice, right? So, the conclusion, Ashraf children are taken care of by neighbors like Hanifa, Chikama, the Mutabali Sahib, who was once ignorant, arrogant and indifferent. He is also shocked by Muni's death, and he also realizes the reason that he also didn't help. Amina, Yaqub's first wife, she also shows her independence by deciding to undergo an operation to control her fertility. She also rejects the further exploitation. So the story concludes with a note of female resistance and empowerment despite systematic oppression, right? So let's conclude. Let's find the themes here. What does this story, Black Cobras, show here, right? So we find here very first theme here, patriarchy and gender inequality. So women suffer due to male dominance, social norms, and neglect, maternal love and sacrifice. Ashraf's love for her children, especially Munni, that's going to drive the whole story here. Religious hypocrisy, religious authorities misused to favor men and ignore women's rights, poverty and social injustice, the intersection of poverty, gender, and social norms traps women in suffering. They cannot come out of this. Female solidarity, female support from women like Zulekha Begum, Amina, the neighbor, that shows some sort of hope, some sort of empowerment. And finally, the tragic realism. The story portrays the life's harsh realities without romanticizing the struggle. So, this is how I have tried my best to summarize, to analyze the story Black Cobras, written by the famous writer Banu Mushtaq. And I suggest you to read the story once again from the textbook, where you can also find some more threads which have been missed out in my explanation. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay in tune with my channel, Mukesh English.